The Merchant of Venice offers deep insights into civil law, particularly in obligations. The play challenges our understanding of penalties and justice. One key issue is the excessive burden of the pound of flesh. Such penalties were widely accepted acts at the time. Book review: The play is set in Venice and revolves around several characters and interconnected plots. Antonio, a respected and kind-hearted Venetian merchant, is in a melancholy mood and short of immediate cash, as his wealth is tied up in ships at sea. His friend, Bassanio, a young nobleman and philanderer, needs funds to woo the wealthy and intelligent heiress, Portia, who lives on her estate in Belmont. To help Bassanio, Antonio asks Shylock, a Jewish moneylender, for a loan. Shylock, who resents Antonio for his criticism of usury practices and his kindness in granting interest-free loans, proposes a peculiar and cruel contract. If the loan is not repaid within 3 months, Shylock will have the right to take 1 pound of Antonio's flesh from wherever he pleases on his body. Antonio, confident of the safe return of his ships, accepts the terms. Bassanio travels to Belmont and, following the challenge set by Portia's late father, selects the correct box from the 3 available to choose from, winning the heiress's hand. Bassanio marries Portia, who was very rich due to her late father's inheritance, and his friend Gratian marries Nerissa, who was Portia's maid. Meanwhile, in Venice, news arrives that Antonio's ships have sunk, and he will not be able to pay back the loan to Shylock within the stipulated period. Shylock, driven by revenge and hatred, insists on fulfilling the contract and demands his pound of flesh. Antonio's situation becomes desperate, and Bassanio returns to Venice, bringing with him the money that Portia gave him to save his friend. However, Shylock is inflexible and no longer wants the money, but rather the fulfillment of the contractual clauses and a culmination of the principle of pacta sunt servanda. The case is taken to the Duke of Venice for judgment. When all seems lost for Antonio, a young lawyer named Balthazar arrives at court, sent by a renowned jurist. In reality, Balthazar was Portia in disguise. Portia, with her intelligence and knowledge of the law, initially appeals to Shylock for mercy. However, when he remains adamant, she finds a loophole in the contract. Shylock is entitled to a pound of flesh, but if he spills even a drop of Christian blood while taking it, his lands and goods will be confiscated by Venetian law. Since it is impossible to take flesh without spilling blood, Shylock is defeated. Furthermore, it is discovered that Shylock, as a foreigner, conspired against the life of a Venetian citizen, Antonio, which results in the loss of half of his goods to the state and the other half to Antonio. The Duke, showing clemency, commutes Shylock's sentence, and Antonio decides to return his share of the goods on the condition that Shylock convert to Christianity and leave his remaining property to his daughter, Jessica, and his son-in-law, Lorenzo. The play ends with everyone returning to Belmont, where there is joy and celebration. There is also a touch of humor when Portia and Nerissa demand from their husbands, Bassanio and Graziano, the rings they had promised never to take off, revealing that they themselves were the lawyers in disguise. In short, The Merchant of Venice is a complex story that addresses themes such as justice, mercy, revenge, religious prejudice, anti-Semitism, and the nature of contracts and obligations. Contextualization of the book with the legal principles of civil law. The text was written as a play, and there are several points in the play that can be explored from the perspective of the law of obligations. The nature of the contract between Antonio and Shylock. There are essential elements of this contract, such as consent, the object, the loan of money, and the cause, helping Bassanio. The clause of the pound of flesh can be interpreted as a form of maximum fine or penal clause, common for the time. Degrading punishments were common at the time, although with quite peculiar and problematic characteristics. The principle of contractual good faith. Shylock's conduct in demanding the literal fulfillment of the obligation, even in the face of tragic consequences, can be analyzed by the principle of objective good faith, which stipulates loyalty and cooperation between the contracting parties, as well as the principle of pacta sunt servanda. The impossibility of the obligation. The way Portia gets around the situation, preventing Shylock from shedding blood when removing the pound of flesh, can be related to the idea of the impossibility of the obligation, which could render the contract null and void. The bond between Antonio and Bassanio resembles surety. Antonio guarantees Bassanio's debt, showing deep loyalty and friendship. Yet, during the trial, Antonio's fate diverges from Bassanio's. The court took away Shylock's wealth, illustrating a shift in power. This transformation can symbolize before and after. The relationship highlights themes of sacrifice and responsibility. Antonio's willingness to bear the burden demonstrates his loyalty. Bassanio seeks help, relying on their bond. Ultimately, the trial changes everything for all characters involved. The outcome showcases the complexities of friendship and justice. This tale reflects enduring questions about wealth, loyalty, and human connection.